Hey everybody, this is Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater, and you've got a Backstage Pass. When I was very young, I went to the Julliard School of Music. Matter of fact, I started there when I was 9 years old, and they have a preparatory division for talented young people. And I stayed at Julliard for about 10 years. And no matter what I do in my musical life, whatever kind of music I make, if it's rock, electronic, classical, certainly jazz, it doesn't matter. But what I learned at Julliard was I consider it to be the foundation, kind of like the structure of everything I do. I mean, it basically set me up for my life in music. I learned how to practice. I learned how to have patience. I learned how to think through things. And so I consider myself very lucky for having this incredible background. And I didn't realize as a kid, how strict it really was, because that's what I was doing. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to have done that. And I really think about that whenever I'm doing anything. I lead a very creative life, and I get very excited about music and visuals, graphics, technology. And so because of my network of not only friends, but also of the technology people that I work with, I get a lot of kind of creative input. And I really see my journey with technology as a creative pathway. People from the outside could see it as something maybe more academic, or maybe it's related to science, but for me, it's all about creativity. Whether I'm using something like a video editor like Video Leap, which is offering, all kinds of interesting tools for me to be able to present what I do in interesting visual form, or it's something like Moises, which lets me go in and, play with the music and play with tracks and separate and listen in different ways. And to me, that kind of thing is in the creative space. I view it in the creative space, and I use it in the creative space. My practice routine is very different, as well as just my general daily routine, whether I'm home or on the road. When I left for this current Dream Theater tour, I waved goodbye to a lot of my, precious instruments, like my Steinway piano or my new Osmos Expressive E keyboard, because some of the things that I was enjoying doing at home are not going to be part of what I do on the road. When I'm at home for practice, it varies. If I'm preparing for a tour, like this European tour that I'm on presently, then I really need to focus on the music, because it's funny, because in our business as a professional musician, touring musician going on stage, there's no choice. That on a certain day, you're going to be on the stage, and you have to be able to play the music for the audience. And nobody's gonna like it if you say, well, I kind of know it, I'm still working on it. It's not like that. And there's only certain businesses that are like that, where you have to be absolutely prepared. Some other businesses, you can, what's called fudging it, or you can be a little bit looser. But in the performing musician world, there's no way to do that. So there's this interesting pressure, which of course leads to practice if you're a professional. If I don't have any particular concerts or that, it might involve just more sitting down at an instrument when I just really want to play, and maybe even doing a live stream and just playing, and in that sense practicing, taking the musical thoughts that are in my mind and translating them out through my fingers. So it might not be as strict, kind of like a practice. When I was younger, I will say that I practiced 3 or 4 hours a day at the piano with scales and arpeggios, and whatever recital I was working on. There was always a recital coming up. So that was a little bit more like, and also I was always home. I wasn't on tour. When I'm on the road, practicing is different. Honestly, these days I'm probably practicing more guitar than keyboard, because even though one can always learn, and I'm not claiming to know everything on the keyboard, I also have this interest in kind of gaining more skill on the guitar. I'm enjoying the headspace of figuring out another instrument and how it works. And I'm finding that it really helps me to get new perspectives of everything that I do. Like when I sit at the keyboard after playing the guitar and looking at the fretboard, my vision, my view of it changes. And it's really pretty cool. The other thing that happens practice-wise on the road for me is, I'll play a show and then I realize that, okay, well, it went well, but maybe that part doesn't feel as comfortable. So I make notes and I go back and I'll sit in my dressing room. I have a little practice keyboard in the dressing room, and I'll review it. And I'll sit there and I'll just make sure I have those parts together. But the biggest thing that I like to share with young musicians concerning practice, and I might as well say it now, is that practice is not about just like playing the notes and like playing the pattern and figuring out the fingering and doing it over and over and over again. It's not about that, or it's not all about that at all. It's really about, once you figure out the basics and what fingers you want to put on the note on the guitar or the piano or the violin or whatever it is, then you have to practice how you want to feel when you play it. Because unless you practice the feeling that you're gonna have when you're playing like a difficult passage, the chances are when you're in front of an audience, in front of your classmates, playing for somebody else, and there's any pressure, it will fall apart. Because it's more about the way we feel, within our nervous systems. Are we calm? Are we relaxed? Are we warm with our hands? Because if that stuff starts to go, it doesn't matter how many times you repeated a phrase on an instrument, it's all gonna go. So that's what I always love to include in my speaking about practicing. In my business, which, I play a lot of different kinds of music, as many people know, but probably, let's say the main thing I do is with Dream Theater. And there's a certain viewpoint that I come to that job, if you will, with. Most progressive rock keyboard players, I would say, are using like a system with many, many keyboards. They'll have one keyboard, maybe they'll play piano on, and then they'll move over here and they'll play their mellotron, and then they'll go up here and there's an organ, and there's stuff all over the place. But the thing is, for me, there's a few things going on for me. I've always gravitated for most of my career by going to one kind of, let's call it like powerful instrument and getting the most out of it. Most keyboard players know a little bit about this one, a little bit about that one, or a little bit about this one, but that's not the way that I function. So technology-wise, I find something that really does a lot of stuff and I'll get the most out of it. Like now I play on a Korg Kronos, and that is the 95% of what I do. And the reason I can do that is because I know how to program that machine. First of all, it's a very powerful synthesizer workstation. I can program it for the synthesis parts of it. There's all these different types of synthesis inside of the Kronos, but there's also the ability to sample. So like if I have a virtual instrument that I really love, like I'm using something like a contact instrument, right? And it's incredible strings. I'll take the part of the string sound that I need, I'll sample it, I'll manipulate it in the Kronos, and now I have this beautiful sound there. So over the years, I've really done that, where I take my sound sources, whether it's an original sound of me tapping on a glass, and I need that bell sound, or closing a big door for an effect, or it's something from a sound library that I don't want to bring my computer, I just want to do it on my Kronos. So I make the most out of it. So that's part one of why I do it that way. Part two is a musical reason, which is I find when I listen to keyboard players that are doing this, like doing the all over the place, playing this instrument, turning their body to play this one, turning again, sometimes the musical phrasing is not smooth. So what I do is I keep my hands on the keyboard that I'm playing, And like these days, and for a while, I use a pedal to take me from one, what we call combination, to another. So I might have a very like big sound with brass in my left hand and with choir mixed with organ in my right. I can hold that. And then when I step on a pedal while holding that chord, the next time my fingers go down, it might be like a special effect and a big, 66 trombone sound mixed with some kind of a, incredible, string orchestra sound. So without lifting up my hands, I can literally go, da, and then hit the next chord, and it can be completely different with all different sounds along the keyboard. And that really works for me, and I feel satisfied musically. But it does mean that I have probably, I think my tech told me the other day, I have about 400 sound changes during a night. So I'm just incrementing through on the pedal to get me through all the different songs. But of course, Dream Theater, we have epic, long, maybe 20-minute songs, so there could be a lot of sound changes. I think that professional musicians are generally the ones that are most in touch with their limitations. Everybody in music, they build, let's call it a vocabulary, like a library of things that they can do, right? So in the time that I've spent in my musical life, I've listened to certain music, I've practiced certain things, and I've learned different riffs. And then they become almost like my words, like the language that I'm speaking to you. So, but it's a musical language, obviously. And that language has a stopping point. Hopefully it's wide enough that I can express myself with the musical vocabulary that I have within the styles that I can do. But as somebody whose eyes are like wide open to music and musicians from all around the world, I'm always being offered and maybe even gifted these other ways of looking at music. I have an application called GeoShred that my company puts out. It's an iOS app. And it's really, and when I invented it with my partners at Stanford University, we put together something that I thought was really cool. And I thought it was kind of I thought one of the greatest things about it was offering people this kind of, I call it like a Steve Vai or Jeff Beck kind of approach to pitch bending, where it's very intelligent. You could slide in a fretless domain, or you could play diatonically. And I offered that, and we made an instrument. Well, a couple of years into it later, I started to see that all these guys were playing it in this amazing way in India. They were using it for Carnatic music. And I'm looking at that going, oh my God, this is a whole nother thing, where these guys come from and the way that they're controlling pitch. I don't do that. I can't do that. I've tried a little bit because I'm interested. Do I have that much time to do it? Not really. But there's a lot of places where one can, struggle to achieve a higher level or something, really different. So it's in things like that. I'll watch somebody play and all of a sudden they're going, ding, ding. They're moving their hands like this and all these jazz chords are coming out and it's very smooth and it's really cool. And I go, wow, if I sat down for a while, and sometimes I'll struggle through kind of figuring out what's going on in that mode. But that's a different thing for me. It's a different road. And it's difficult because what makes Moises amazing is the combination of features. Sometimes I'm blown away because I'll upload something, and then when it comes back, I'm like, how did it figure out the metronome? The metronome is very, very smart. And I can't say it's my favorite feature, but it's worth pointing out because I haven't seen that really anywhere else presented in the way that Moises presents it, where you can go in and you just have an audio file and you want to play to it and understand, even without the drums on, where's the beat? But not only does it just show you the beat, but you can also cut the time in half or double it and have a choice of metronome to this music that you just uploaded. You didn't tell it any kind of BPM or anything. It just figures it out. And honestly, I've never seen it make a mistake. So that's really crazy. I don't know how it does that. been very lucky in my life with music because it's brought me to so many different experiences. You know, before Dream Theater, I met a lot of people. I had a lot of wonderful training. I remember my friends and kind of like colleagues at Julliard very fondly. You know, being in like I would literally sneak to a practice room as far from my teacher's studio as possible because I wanted to play not only classical music, I wanted to go and play like some blues or some boogie woogie or some jazz. And at Juilliard in those days, my teachers didn't want to know anything about it. So I have these very, very strong memories of like saying, okay, you know, the other kids, come on, I'll show you some cool stuff. And we'd go and I would play some crazy stuff on the piano and we'd come out and I'd button up my tie or whatever and go back to the, you know, the straight-laced world. When I joined Dream Theater, my world opened up in the sense that all of a sudden I joined this international band that was playing everywhere. Dream Theater's career is really interesting because we go, think of a place, we go there. And I guess as far as memories go, specific memories from this incredible opening that happened when I joined this group, the easiest things to remember are the bigger shows, the ones that are really, truly exciting. Like, I remember being in Italy years ago when Mike Portnoy was in the band, and we were playing Milan, Italy. And Mike came back before the show, and he said to us, you know, guys, take a look around. If we could see the audience, it was in a huge, huge place, probably like, you know, for, I don't know, 30,000 people, like a big, big stadium place. It was full. And he said, take a look around because you got to remember, this is like a big thing. This place is packed and that you just, you know, check it out, put it in your memory banks, remember this. And I did, and I looked at it and I went, oh my God, this is really insane. Like, it's just so powerful, you know? I'll never forget that because that's incredible. You know, how many times in your life you can have the experience of, you know, that kind of impact? The most important thing to me is the musical communication that I do that comes from the heart. I mean, I play a lot of different kinds of music, a lot of technical music, progressive music, all different kinds of things. But when I play and I can reach out and somebody feels something that is very like dear to them, or they just feel warms their being or their heart, or it relaxes them, or they just have a really positive experience. This is what I want to last. I want people to kind of maybe hopefully carry that with them. You know, of course, as a musician, there are things I will leave behind, you know, the recordings that I make, that if it can touch them, if it can, you know, warm their soul or their being, and they remember me for that, then I'd be really happy. Actually, the last thing that I put into Moises was a Jeff Beck song, right? But it was interesting because it doesn't have vocals, right? So the separation, it was like a little bit of a test for like separation. And so that's the one that's the last one I chose. The most straight ahead thing to do is to get the vocals, the bass, the drums, the piano. Doesn't know Jeff Beck's tone, but I did that, and actually I was able to use that as a tool because I was able to slow it down, and it did take out a lot of what I needed, the main part that I wanted removed. Okay, so if I want to play something that is safe or easier for me, I can go into that what's called a headspace pretty easily, because I really believe that no matter what somebody's like technical ability in an instrument is, it's always possible to make a really nice sound. If someone who is a beginner player goes up to the piano, I encourage them to, you know, just make a nice sound. Don't try to play something sometimes don't try to play something that's too hard. Maybe you just play a couple of chords looping chords in a simple way, and you play them with the intent on making a beautiful sound, you can achieve something really musical that has a nice feeling as a player and also as the listener. So when I want to play something safe, I can go into the space where, okay, I'm not going to play something that's lots of arpeggios or fast notes. I can just play something really, really calm and focus on making a really nice sound and relaxing and having a nice energy about it. And that to me can just produce a really nice result musically, and also for the way that I feel, and also for the listener. But also, not to forget that you can't always play it safe, because then you can't grow. You have to be willing to, and getting back to, what we were initially talking about, which was the struggle. You have to be willing in life to have some struggle if you ever want to learn anything. You can't just play it safe. You have to be open to things, and the struggle doesn't necessarily have to be pain. A lot of the struggle, I think, involves patience, and the more patience that we learn, in anything that we do, the better. A willingness to learn, and then patience to learn without getting frustrated. One of the areas that I'm involved with that I'm also very excited about is not musical, but it has to do with the visual world and some of the ways that I present my music. And when I do like a Moises piece with a virtual duet, the way that I prepare the video or the effects I add are done with some technology by Light Tricks, because I'm really interested and involved with kind of like, not only the musical side of it, but how it looks and how it's presented. So I use the main applications that I use are things like Video Leap for iOS or Photo Leap. Very interested in the musical AI stuff, but also in AI for visuals. Like, I know a lot of people out there have tried like the text to image kind of technology. I love that. It's so fun. And I've been using that, creatively and for my work as well.